Hi, this is the Anarcha Archive. I'm J.C. Hallman. Today, we're skipping ahead a little bit in Anarcha's story, to New York City, in fact. This came as a complete surprise to me.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
When I first started researching Anarcha, I traveled to Alabama in 2015 and found the first evidence of her life that didn't come directly from the man who experimented on her, the so-called father of gynecology, J. Marion Sims. At that point, I had no idea what happened to Anarcha. In fact, I thought there was a very good chance that she had been buried here in the Westcott cemetery on the plantation where she had been born and raised. After I returned home from that first trip, I set about researching Sims' story. I already knew that Sims had opened a hospital in New York, but I had no idea how to find the records of that hospital. Fortunately, there are libraries. An archivist named Tim Pennycuff at the University of Alabama, Birmingham had already been very helpful, and he put me in touch with an archivist at the Mount Sinai Archives in New York City, Barbara Niss. Barbara put me in touch with another archivist, Nancy Piniella, at Roosevelt Hospital. Nancy Piniella has now retired, and the archives at Roosevelt have closed, but they had the original case record books moved from the hospital that Sims opened in 1855. Suffice it to say, Nancy Piniella was very anxious for something to be done with those books. I arranged to go see them. The hospital that Sims opened was called Woman's Hospital. It was first pitched as a bigger version of the small hospital, for lack of a better word, where Sims had experimented on Anarcha, Lucy, and Betsy, somewhere here in Montgomery on this property. Woman's Hospital first stood approximately here. As you can see, there's not much left. A plan began to form to move Woman's Hospital in as early as 1857. They wanted a much larger space, more beds. Sims first wanted this building, the Arsenal, at the southeast corner of Central Park. It had just been finished, and the Arsenal was completely empty. Sims didn't get it. In 1868, it moved here, to what was then known as 4th Avenue and 50th Street. At that time, it had been a cemetery, particularly for cholera victims, and as many as 50,000 bodies had to be moved so that Woman's Hospital could be built. Later, after Woman's Hospital moved again, it became this. Finally, long after Sims was gone, Woman's Hospital moved here, to Amsterdam Avenue on the Upper West Side of New York City. As you can see, there's not much left. Woman's Hospital was folded into much larger hospitals in the city. But let's return to 1855. Woman's Hospital opened in May of that year, and almost immediately, Sims turned it into his own private laboratory. That was really the plan all along. As soon as the hospital opened, he began conducting experiments on Irish women, immigrants, who had recently fled Ireland's potato famine on board so-called coffin ships. The oldest of the 3 case record books dated from the very beginning of the hospital, 1855, and covered cases from then until 1861. It was a huge book, and the first thing I did was open the heavy cover. In those days, the index was in the front. I passed my finger down the page, and I didn't even make it 4 names. Anarcha, slave. There she was, page 26. That was a spine-tingling moment. Just like finding Anarcha in Alabama, it was a needle in a haystack. But even more so, because Anarcha was supposed to have been cured. She was Sims' first cure. But if she was cured, then what was she doing? Being experimented on by Sims again in New York City. I turned to page 26. Page 26 offered a lot more detail. It was now 1856, and Anarcha was now enslaved by a man named William L. Morey from Caroline County, Virginia. Archivist Kate Cords at the New York Public Library helped me work out that name. It takes a while to learn how to read this old handwriting. Later, Philip Sutton, another archivist at the New York Public Library, also helped me to make important connections and figure out just who Morey was. The full record revealed a great deal more about Anarcha's life at this moment and for the past several years. She had been experimented on additional times in Richmond, Virginia, by a man named Charles Bell Gibson. Gibson couldn't cure her, and she was sent to New York. At that point, she'd had 5 pregnancies. As we described in an earlier video, she first became pregnant in late 1844 and gave birth to a probably stillborn child in 1845. This is late 1856, 5 pregnancies in 12 years. The case register claims that Anarcha entered the hospital in mid-December 1856 and was discharged cured on January 22, 1857. But there's good reason to doubt many of the particulars of the case record. At this point, Sims had already staked his career on being the surgeon who managed to cure obstetric fistula. It didn't matter that many others had published cures before him. Anarcha was already central to the self-serving narrative of his career. He couldn't have rumors about Anarcha not being cured leaking out into the world. It took a while from here to verify that it was Sims who experimented on her again at this point. But eventually I did. Sims' assistant at this time was away when the case record claims that Anarcha's operation took place. It had to be Sims. This opened up a whole new trajectory in Anarcha's life story. I knew now that she hadn't stayed in Alabama and that she had been in Richmond for an extended period of time. There was a great deal more to learn. In the next few videos, we'll be exploring the implications of this discovery and shedding more light on how and why Anarcha was sent out of Alabama.
Whoa, 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 whoa.